All right, welcome back. So this is going to be part 2 of the little mini series on John's Bronco II project that we're working on. So starting in this video, we're going to start coming up with designing the transmission crossmember in combination with the 3-link bracket locations. This is going to probably be a little bit different than what I've done in the past too. But I think I have a pretty good plan, and I think it's going to work out just perfect. So let's get this one started. All right, so just kind of playing around with ideas. With the 3-link and the exhaust and the drive shaft, we want to keep as much room as possible on either side of the transmission and extension housing. So I have this 2x3 piece of 3/16 wall square tube. I got it C-clamped directly under the holes of where the Dana 20 stock crossmember would bolt to. So I'm kind of playing around with the idea of doing something like this, and then basically coming up with 2 standoffs in a slight V pattern, and still utilize the factory style Dana 20 bushings. So like I said, I'm kind of playing around with that idea. And then I do have extra mounts that I found. Well, I didn't find, I knew I had them. But these particular ones are 10 degree, and they're made to go off of square tube. So they really wouldn't hang down any farther than the conventional style that we would use, or like the James Duff style that was on here, hung down a little bit farther than this yet. So it's 10 degrees, it already points it square towards where the axle mount would be, and on that side we have corresponding 10 degree brackets that go on the axle tube. So that's what I'm kind of looking at right now. This is like a conventional one that we've used, but I do see that this is too narrow. I'm not sure how that happened. But instead of taking something like this that's square, and then I've just welded them on kind of at a 10 degree angle, which works but looks weird. I kind of like the idea of just already having one that's 10 degrees, nice and clean. And then what I've done on the Explorer, I don't love my design on my Explorer, but it worked. But this just looks like so much more room than what I even had. So essentially this would be set up, and then just picture, I don't know, 1.5 inches out, we would cut the tube, and then basically we would put 2 end caps of like 1/4 inch plate, and then those would bolt together, allowing that crossmember to be removed. Might be kind of hard to picture, but in my head it's making sense. And then over here, TMR makes these very nice welding spacers. So whenever you're welding your shock mounts, link mounts, whatever, typical link mount is 2 5/8 width. These are just slightly oversized to compensate for shrinkage when welding. So you just bolt these in place, weld up your bracket, pull these out, and then you have a nice slip fit for your heims. So TMR, I got them for the 2 5/8, the standard shock 1.5, and then I thought I needed them, but I guess I don't. I have a 1.6 for the ORI strut width, which I guess is what the 2.5 and up coilover use, I guess, a wider than 1.5 shock mount. So I don't know, worth it. I think it's worth it. Before, I've tried using an old set of misalignment spacers and then adding a ultra thin washer, and that works, but just to have one piece that's ready to go, can't beat it. All right, so John's here and we are test fitting the body. So we got the new body bushings on and the 1-inch aluminum pucks. And then basically what we're doing is we're checking for clearance on the body and the Atlas. It's kind of a known issue right there. So we massaged it a little bit. We don't want to give up too much of our angle, so it's easier to dent that in a little bit more. It's underneath the seat, you won't see it, and keep our angle, because the more we go down the back, the more the front points up, and that's what we don't want. So see where we're at. All right, so we raised the body up and down, I know, good 3 times, check for clearance, and we got that all set. John's just kind of priming and painting majority of the frame rail. We're not really doing much else on the sides.
Powder coat in the can?
Powder coat in the can. I didn't mention it in the other video, but one of the other things that we initially did was there's 4 sets of bolt holes you'll see. We already did the rock sliders too. So the rock sliders are together and they are bolt on. There's 4 legs per side, 4 bolts per leg. They're not going nowhere, and the nuts are welded inside the frame rail, so they just bolt on and off, nice and easy. So we found a little happy medium. We got that ground down and pushed in, and we still got, what, about a 1/4 inch of clearance for wiggle room. And then something else that we did earlier, I don't know, a month and a half ago now, is the, what is it, C-pillar body mounts were the only ones that were bad. So I basically just cut out nice squares, inserted a new 1/8 inch plate, drilled the hole, and brand new. So instead of reinventing the wheel, John had a good idea. Let's just use the majority of the Dana 20 to basically already have that V to match the transfer case adapter. So I'm going to plasma cut out the red line, and that'll be our adapter plate, and then we'll build between that and the 2x3 square tube. All right, use a plasma cutter, cut that out real quick. John's gonna grind it down smooth. We got JJ drilling the holes for the bolts to hold the 2x3 to the frame. And then now he's working on cutting those tabs that we're going to use to attach the 3 sections of the 2x3, and John's cutting the length. Teamwork makes the dream work. All right, so we just got the cross member cut to fit, and it's just bolted in, so it's located. We added a little, what do you want to call that, John? A chamfer? Just so it gives a little bit better look. And then you want to hold that mount up, John? Which keys in real nice. But that's 10 degrees. It'll face straight at the opposing axle side, 10 degree. And we're sitting at what, roughly 34 and a half, 35 inches? Somewhere in there. All right, so this probably looks weird, but that's that Dana 20 cross member that we modified. And then we had enough of this, what's that, 2x3 16th wall square tube. We got that welded on to that portion. So now what we're going to do is figure out, we're going to bolt this back to the T-case, and then we should only be like within a 1/2 inch to trim, not even. So we're going to undo the cross member real quick, bolt this in place, and get our measurement. All right, the drivetrain is on its own weight, no more jack. So we'll just kind of get an idea here. Lower link mounts, that hole will be capped. Cross members built up, that Dana 20, 2x3, 3/16 wall, vertical. And then we got some trimming to do. We're gonna trim up, round this off nice. And then upper third link brackets gonna go right here. So next we're going to measure and cut here and here on both sides to make the center part removable. So that's next, and then we'll plate this inside so that we can get the upper third link bracket tacked in place, and that puts all the frame side mounts in place. All right, got the crossmember back off. What I'm doing now is cutting here, because the middle section needs to be able to be removed if the transmission needs to come out. So these will stay welded to the frame, and then I got a pair of two sets of plates. There'll be a plate and a plate sandwiched together with a 1/2-inch bolt, and that's how that ties together. All right, got it all sliced up. Let's see. I know it's upside down, but they're cut apart. There's going to be a flange on each side, and then they will be together and bolted. Got my two sets marked. Drill those out. I got these tacked together so that they are mirror images. Maybe this will start making a little bit more sense now. So I went ahead and cleaned up, bolted together, and then tacked on the frame bracket there and the frame bracket here. So now I'm going to take this thickness off of this side and this thickness off of this side. Well, not that full thickness. So this thickness minus a blade and a half. I'm going to start a little bit longer and then work my way in. I'll make sure it's a nice, snug, tight fit, not loose. All right, got it set back in, bolted up, and then got it tacked together here. So pull the whole thing out and weld them in. All right, just like that, it's welded together. We'll go through and shape it a little bit, radius, the sharp points. But the point is that it's made. So now, like I was saying, the ends are located with 1/2-inch bolts now. So we'll locate it, bolt everything together, and then the ends will be fully welded to the frame rails. And then this whole section, undo 2 bolts, undo 2 bolts, undo 2 bolts, and that whole center T part, or H part, will drop right out. All right, so the cross member is now 100% done. I went ahead and shaped up that Dana 20 part we use so that thing looks symmetrical and just looks nice. Super strong. Everything is fully welded, shaped and rounded off all those corners, and then double checked measurements on these lower link brackets and went ahead and welded those on as well. Those are not going to change, they wouldn't change, so I just went ahead and welded those on. Again, driver's side, we got the drive shaft to worry about. Nothing but room now, and then by the time the double cardan joint comes on, it'll be, there's no interference at all. We even had an issue with the C4 shifter situation. We had to notch the Dana 20 crossmember, which me and John found while we had it out that it was already cracked. So that was already compromised. So now nothing but room for the drive shaft, the shifter, TK shifters for the Atlas. And then this side right here, once it's plated, we'll have the third link in here, and then there's a ton of room for the exhaust. Very similar to how I have my Explorer. I want to point out real quick, back when Brad was doing his B2 here in the barn, John traced out all of Brad's plate panels. So that saved a bunch of time. John started working on those months back. So now I'm on the next part for there. There's a little bit of a curve in the frame. It's hard to see on camera. Put a little slit in the plate, bent it, and that will fit right in here. I just got to kind of grind it and make it fit. You can kind of see how it lines up perfectly now. That's 1/4 inch, and that's 1/4 inch because that's where the upper third link bracket is going to mount to. All right, that thing is fitting like perfect. So I had to massage it just a little bit, and it's virtually at 90 degrees. I will put a tack here and there just so it stays in place, and then I can try to get exactly 90, but 0.2 degrees, I'm not that worried about it. All right, so this is going to finish up part 2 here of the mini series on John's Bronco II build that I'm doing the 3-link and front suspension, steering, etc. on. Crossmember turned out absolutely perfect in my opinion. So if it looks weird to you, I know it's not a traditional looking Crossmember, but this is a C4 transmission. This is a stock Dana 20 extension housing. And unlike all the modern transmissions and extension housings that have a nice low square mounting pad for the transmission mount, this is like a really high, and it's like a V. So instead of like trying to reinvent the wheel, like I showed you guys earlier in the video, we utilized the main section of the OEM early Bronco Dana 20 Crossmember and then added onto it. I wanted to keep the lower link mounts in line with the drive shaft double carded, so everything is pivoting at the same point. These are no lower than the James Duff style long arm that a lot of the Ford Bronco guys, Explorers, Rangers, Bronco 2s use. So this doesn't hang down any more than something like that. And it just worked out nice to basically make this a modular Crossmember. I now have 1/2-inch bolts pinning to the frame on each side. The bolts are welded to the frame inside, so now they're actually like just studs. So as of right now, it's still removable. But when we are done, these end caps under the frame will be fully welded to the frame. And then we will close that off, give it a finished look, leaving plenty of room in the middle to remove the whole section for, hopefully after this, the transmission and stuff doesn't have to come out, but if it does, there's plenty of room to do so. Super strong. It's all 3/16 wall and or quarter wall, 2x3 tube, and it's not going nowhere. I finished up that plate that fit perfectly. I have the upper 3rd length bracket tacked in place for now. There's 3 adjustment settings on there. The lowest bolt hole is a 4-inch link separation, and then a 5-inch, and then a 6-inch. So at a minimum, there's 4 inches of link separation, and then we can go up from there if we need to. Try to do this one-handed here, but here's the original, well, the front drive shaft that we had on the truck prior to all this. You guys can see it goes right on, just like so, and there's no way that any of this will contact when the joint's maxed out. It's not even close to that Crossmember. This video's done for this part. I'm going to move on. Going to mock up some lower links. We're going to try to keep the axle stretched forward as far as possible. Just got to keep in mind the track bar and the drag link. Those are the main 2 things that are the interference point. The links, lower, upper, not a big deal. Full stuff, we're looking real good at full stuff. So we'll get the links mocked up, make sure the axle center equal, and then we'll start flexing it side to side, full stuff, full droop, and steering lock to lock. And everything looks good. Then we can start moving on to the front shock towers with the ORI struts, ORIs. 12-inch strokes in the front, and everything should come together really good. Meanwhile, in the works right now, I don't know if I mentioned it or if they mentioned it on their page, Broncos R Us. The 8.8 is coming out now, sooner than later. The 9-inch was the plan regardless, but we thought maybe that was going to happen down the road. But again, I think I say this in every one of my videos. I call it the domino effect. You want to make one change. That one change, basically, you got to change multiple other things at the same time for it to work. So you got a brand new Atlas transfer case. You're going to need a drive shaft. Why have a drive shaft made for an axle that you're going to have for another 3, 4, 5, 6 months? Let's just put the 9-inch in there now. Let's get the 9-inch built how you want it. Get the right yokes. Now he's moving up to 40-inch tires. He was going to stay at 37s. So originally this was ordered with a 1310 yoke. So we're going to pop on a Atlas's or Advanced Adapters flange, which allows basically any adapter you want to run. So it's going to be a 1350 rear drive shaft. And then the 9-inch, a lot of goodies coming for that. We'll cover that in the next video or one of the next videos. But a lot more happening, a lot more stuff to do. The goal is to have this as a roller almost ready to go by Christmas. So today is November 20th. So, all right, we'll catch you in the next one.